So hello, my name is Surabhi Biyani. I'm a senior in atmospheric sciences and earth and space sciences, and this is my Husky experience. So about me, like I said, I'm Surabhi. I grew up in the Bay Area in California. And the reason that I chose UW was because I knew I wanted to study the earth. And there were just so many options for me at UW. I didn't know what I specifically wanted to do. But everyone here seemed so passionate and excited about their majors, and that was really exciting for me. And that's definitely been true in my time here. So academics, I started out as an ESS major at UW, but then I added atmospheric sciences later on during my freshman year. The freshman classes that stood out to me and that kind of led me down the path that I took were ESS 203, which is a glaciers class, and that led me to my first research project in glaciology, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then I also took ESS 201, which is Earth's climate system, which actually made me more interested in climate science and kind of led me to atmospheric sciences, even though it's an ESS class. And then along with that, I took Atmos 220, which was an atmospheric sciences research seminar that really showed me the breadth of research opportunities and like topics in atmospheric sciences, and that really convinced me to add that second major. And then I was also able to complete departmental honors in both majors through my research. So my first research experience was a glaciology project, like I mentioned, with Dr. TJ Fudge in Earth and Space Sciences. And the main goal of this project was to estimate geothermal heat flux at locations under the Antarctic ice sheet using an ice and heat flow model, which was in MATLAB. And this was my first research experience, right? So it was the summer after my freshman year. I didn't really know programming. I didn't know MATLAB for sure. But through that summer, I just worked really hard and I learned. And that project, I ended up continuing that project beyond my freshman that summer. And we ended up writing a paper and publishing it. And then I presented at the American Geophysical Union conference in San Francisco in December of 2019. So that was a really cool experience. That's a picture of me. And that initial summer project was funded through the NASA Space Grant Program, which is really cool. Then the following summer, so this is the summer after my sophomore year, I kind of switched gears and I decided to do research in atmospheric sciences. And so I worked with the professor, Darwin Ferson, in Atmos, and I used climate models for the first time, which was really interesting for me. In particular, I studied the southward shift of the intertropical convergence zone, which is like a band of rainfall near the equator in the historical period. So in this figure on the right, you can kind of see in the late 90s, there's this like slight dip that's basically showing that there was more rainfall in the south than in the north. And that's because of that shift. And using the atmospheric sciences I had learned that year in my newfound data analysis skills, I was able to attribute that shift to changes in the atmosphere during that time. And so this really sparked my interest in climate science research and working with climate model data. And this was also through NASA Space Grant. And then that brings us to my third and current research project. I did this in the summer of 2020, and this was through the NOAA Hollings Undergraduate Scholarship. And then I also got funding from Mary Gates during the school year. And this was focused, it was with scientists at NOAA GFDL, which is Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory, which is a lab in Princeton, though I did this project remotely. And it was focused on projecting changes in US precipitation extremes through the future using a really large high-resolution climate model. And so this figure on the right, essentially, without going too in depth, is showing that the types of events we consider extreme are increasing in magnitude throughout the century. And so this is for Seattle in particular, but that's the case that we found across the country. And I'm currently working on writing a first author paper, which I hope to publish or to submit and then publish sometime this summer. And this is the project that kind of inspired me to work on climate variability and climate extremes in my future. In addition to research, I've been working during my time here. So I've been working as the undergraduate assistant at the program on climate change for the past few years. This involves like updating the website, publishing climate related news articles, and like updating climate classes and things on the website. But the major project that I worked on was compiling and publishing an ebook called Climate Science for the Classroom, which is an open access ebook that has a bunch of different lesson plans that were written by graduate students for the program on climate change over the years. Some of these were like really out of date, so I updated them, I reformatted it, like put it all together and published it. And that kind of really drove my interest in geoscience education and communication, which is something that I think is so important. In addition to that, I've been part of a couple clubs and organizations. The first is Geo Club, which is the ESS student club, it's a geology club. I was co-president for 2 years, and this basically meant planning weekly meetings and like seminars and quarterly department events. And then we also planned and fundraised for our annual spring break field trip. And that's what these pictures on the right are from. They're from our trip in 2019 to Southern California, which was really fun. And honestly, I just made some of my best friends through this club. It's a really close-knit department, and it's really fun to kind of like go out and do things with the people in your classes. And then the other thing I've done is be a student ambassador for the College of the Environment, which is this organization. And this is just a lot of outreach and communication with prospective students. And I really enjoyed it because it helped me get to know students from other majors who I wouldn't necessarily have met otherwise. Finally, my next steps, I'll be going to UCLA this fall to pursue my PhD in atmospheric and oceanic sciences. This is like a result of all the research I've done over the years. I've really become interested in climate research, and I want to analyze climate variability and climate extremes using models. Thank you.